Welcome back to How to Be a Better DM, the official podcast of Monsters.rent. I'm Justin Lewis.
And I'm Tanner Weyland.
And we are here to help you tell better stories for yourself and your players as you dungeon master sessions of D&D, Dungeons & Dragons. We'd like to give you some quick announcements. We actually have one before the show, and then after the show, if you want to stick around, we have some more announcements then as well. But first, let's talk about this. Tired of being alone? Are you tired of not having any of your players understand you? Are you tired of never truly belonging? Well, you're in luck. All you need to do is join the Guild. The Guild is a unique and exclusive experience that is only open to Dungeon Masters. It is a full community focused on helping ease your DMing burdens. Want to meet other DMs? Join the Guild. Want to discuss your homebrew ideas with people who would appreciate it instead of just telling your cat? Join the Guild. Want to find a place where all your wildest dreams will come true? Join the Guild. Go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free. Wait, that can't be right. Chuck, can you check this again? Is this supposed to be... What? Oh, they're serious? It's free? Oh, okay. All right. Yes, go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free, even though they are crazy for giving this away for free. Common side effects may include burping, sneezing, laughing, breathing, hearing, listening, tasting, farting, critting, sarcasm, and in extreme cases, explosive diarrhea. Awesome. With that out of the way, we can get into today's show.
Hello, and welcome to How to Be a Better DM. My name is Tanner Weyland, and together we will learn about how to prepare a better adventure and environment for our players to enjoy. Today, it's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, so buckle in. First, though, a couple of announcements. First things first, we're actually doing a giveaway, the first one we've ever done, so we're pretty excited about it. You can find out more details on Instagram. We'll actually be announcing it today, the day that the podcast is coming out. But follow us at How to Be a Better DM podcast on Instagram to get more info. Here's a hint, though. It has to do with map creation. I've said too much, just far too much. Regardless, we're very excited for it, so check it out. Also, we have a couple one-shots coming up. We've got... I think it's about to happen, but we have Robbie or Bone Daddy. He's from This Dungeon is Occupied. You've probably heard him on our podcast. We love him. Those guys are great. But Robbie, he's running a horror-themed adventure for us this month. But yeah, check up on that. But for future adventures, one-shots with us, we love reaching out, having you fans be a part of this, you listeners. So to get that, just click on the link that I'm going to have in the episode notes. It's howtobea.captivate.fm/one-shot. You got it. I'm not going to belabor that. Second, for our monthly newsletter, honestly, it's a great behind-the-scenes look for how we're doing. We always throw in some homebrew creations in there as well. And also, it's one of the ways that you can sign up for the one-shots in the future. So definitely be sure to subscribe to the newsletter. Now, like I said, it's going to be a short one, so let's jump right in. First, imagine this. You have players coming over, and you planned just the most fantastic campaign ever. And specifically this session, it's so emotional, funny, creative, you've outdone yourself. However, there's a problem. Whether because all your players are too comfortable or they're all such good friends, who knows what, they always seem to get distracted. Now, what can you do? Because that you can't stand for that. You put so much effort into this session. So there's a few options, right? You could, going on the crazy end, you could hire a troupe of actors to come in and play the scenes. That's probably a little too expensive. Okay, maybe you threaten the players to lose their mini or something they love dearly. Now that's probably a little too evil. Don't take it off the table, but like a little bit too evil. Oh, you know what? maybe you could add atmospheric music and sounds to draw them in at key moments. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that sounds just right. And yes, was that me being biased because my whole topic in this episode is soundboards? Maybe. I'm not going to say anything. Regardless, you got to check out soundboards. If you are a DM who like consistently has a hard time with transitions, I would say, during a session, from transitioning with the small talk beforehand to the actual session, and then from, a more calm scene to a more serious scene with like fighting or something else. If that's an issue for you, having sounds and specifically soundboards can really help you out. There's so many out there nowadays. We really live in such a, as my parents would say, such a blessed time. We have so much to choose from. But first off, let's talk about the nitty gritty of soundboards. Sorry, not nitty gritty, the opposite of that. The general overview of soundboards. Like, why do you use them? Mostly it's immersion, as I mentioned. If engagement is an issue, it's probably because the players don't have enough sensory details coming at them to where they feel involved. There's also issues with, with DMs not knowing how to involve players, with railroading, with various issues like that, that we've certainly talked about in other podcasts. But I think that a very simple and understated issue is that some DMs, especially if you struggle with very descriptive language, which we typically recommend, writing certain paragraphs ahead of time. But even so, if you struggle with descriptive language, with making conversations super enthralling, just having a little bit of music or a sound effect here and there can do worlds for just like, for example, in a game I played recently, we were at a fancy, like it was the lord of this town. He was throwing a banquet, and there was also dancing. And so I had the music for that picked out, and it was, the typical string quartet. And honestly, it really worked well at just placing the players within that setting. And I noticed that they acted different without me having to, like, even before I put on the snobbish rich guy's accent and attitude and everything, they already were changing just because the music was different, right? So immersion is a huge thing. But I'm going to say this. I mentioned soundboards, and soundboards often include both ambient, like ambiance or ambient music, or just sounds. Like if you're outside, you've got at night, you got the crickets or the wind blowing or various things like that. If you're into town, you have a lot of people walking and talking and everything like that. Those are great, and I think most players can find good use for that and use it pretty easily. Another skill that I think is much harder, and you're not going to find it with every DM, that's for sure, is using a soundboard for actual like moment-to-moment sounds. Like if a player shoots a bow, the twang of the bowstring. Those sounds exist. There are soundboards out there that have those sounds. However, frankly, I'm still on the fence about how viable it is. Do I think that would add a lot of immersion? Absolutely, 100%. Do I think that most DMs who have to juggle so much already can do that? In my opinion, I'm going to say no, unless you have like an actual physical soundboard. Because when I'm talking about soundboards, I'm mostly talking about software that has various songs and sounds, right? But there's some people who go as far as having actual soundboards where you press a button and a specific saved sound comes from that, right? If you go that far, I'll tell you what, your games are going to level up by that much, but it is that much extra of effort for that. I've seen how I haven't seen it in any games personally, but I have seen it in a lot of podcasts where they will have where one of the players will run the soundboard for the specific sounds, right? Or even for the ambience, because like I've done pretty well generally, like switching, like playing music to set the mood. But some DMs, they're going so fast and so furious that they don't think about that as much. And so it's nice to put a player in charge of that. And then it's much easier to just be like, hey, play this sound set, the battle one. Or play a nice town thing, or give me some waves, right? If you're near the ocean, whatever it is, that's a good kind of workaround if you want to go for that increased level of involvement and switching between sounds. But I'm not going to belabor the point much longer on that. You just know that it can be difficult, and you might want to get help from someone. And it might be difficult specifically to do moment-to-moment sounds. But I would love to hear anybody's experiences if they were able to successfully do that and regularly do that. Please, send us an email or reach out to us on Instagram. I always love to hear how people have triumphed where I have failed, like aggressively. Regardless, though, one thing that I want to say is that there's so many options. I mentioned this earlier. We're kind of in a glorious age of resources for D&D, and just tabletop role-playing in general. But for D&D, there's a few that I've had some experience with personally, but also that most people just kind of rave about. Let me just throw a few out, and I know there's a lot more. And so honestly, if you guys have any recommendations, please reach out, same ways that I was talking about before. But one is, and this one, it was probably the first one I came into, and I've looked up a lot of soundboards, and it consistently gets mentioned. Because one, it's free, and two, it just has so many options. It's called Tabletop Audio. Now, maybe I say that and you're like, oh yeah, tabletop. Like I said, it's pretty common, but what's wonderful is that the guy who made it, he's a composer, so it's like quality and unique stuff, but he's got ambient sounds, he's got like songs. A lot of times he'll have, the ambiance in the back mixed with music. And he has just for so many environments. You're going to have fantasy for days, but then you're also going to have sci-fi. You're going to have horror. You're going to have so many options that you won't know what to do with it. So if you're just getting into this, I would say start there. Frankly, if you're not sure if you want to like level up to a paid subscription soundboard, that's totally okay. Starting with tabletop audio, you can get a lot of what you're looking for and kind of dip your toes, so to speak. But other than that, as far as paid subscription services, a lot of people will recommend either Sirenscape or BattleBard. Now, BattleBard, it's fairly popular, but it is newer than Sirenscape, so I would just say be aware of that. Sirenscape, it's probably one of the biggest ones out there that is paid, and it's very professional. They've got a great app. They've got a lot of options for just everything that you could possibly want, similar to tabletop audio, but in terms of like, oh, you got fantasy, you got sci-fi, you got mundane, just everything you could really want. And they also have a lot of sounds, like tabletop audio. That's one thing that they're still working on. They do have a link on the website that leads to essentially an app that they're creating. It's called SoundPad. And it's got a lot of those individual sounds, but it's a little bit clunkier than Sirenscape, that's for sure. And so I would definitely, if you're wanting to take it to the next level, Sirenscape's the way to go. I think it's like around $7 a month. But like I said, if you're not looking to do this like crazy well and you just want to kind of do a general update, Then there's free options like tabletop audio, or, when I was like first starting out with including music, I remember I was doing a campaign, and it was kind of in a dreary, it was in Barovia, basically. Anybody who knows about D&D's adventures will know like about Ravenloft and everything like that. Barovia was just a rundown town, rough times in general, and I wanted to kind of evoke that. And so I just went to YouTube, honestly. It was one of my first campaigns, and I just was looking up video game soundtracks, and I ran into it is not The Walking Dead. That's the show. Okay. I had to pause for a second and look it up because it was driving me insane. The Last of Us. That is the game I was trying to think. And there's some of you out there who have lost all respect for me since I forgot about it. I apologize, and I will seek to do better. But so The Last of Us, I found that soundtrack, and it's just such it's almost Old Westy, but it's got kind of this rundown feel to it that I really wanted to evoke. So I played that song. Some people recognized it and were like, oh, this is sick, because it kind of got them in that mood, and I think it worked perfectly. And so I want to say there's a few ways you can go about doing this, right? You can go for like just general songs that kind of evoke the place and the setting and the encounter and everything like that. Or if you have a specific emotion you want to evoke, don't shy away from just pulling up YouTube or Spotify and just playing a song from a movie, from a soundtrack, from a game that really like evokes that feeling and emotion. And so those are kind of like that's like just a few thoughts that I had about soundboards. I can't recommend it enough. It's such a simple way to change the environment and the mood in your session. And maybe if you've been, I'm sure people who have been using it for a while, that how effective it can be. And so if you feel like you want to do that, I would recommend going and planning a great session, also taking time to plan the music, and then getting some friends over and having a great time. In the meantime, I'm glad that you were listening today. Hopefully it's been helpful. Definitely look into the suggestions of soundboards that I had. But until next time, let's roll initiative.
Thank you for listening to today's show. We really appreciate your support and your patronage. We have a few more announcements to go over. First,
did you ever fall in love with the library as a kid? It was a place where you could experience 1,000 stories without having to buy 1,000 books. That is what Monsters.rent can do for your D&D campaign. You can rent and swap out as many quality miniature monsters and creatures for your D&D party as you could ever want, without having to buy them. You can rescue villagers from a kobold camp, or lead your party through the fighting forest, or many more adventures. We're coming out with new bundles all the time. Just sign up for our subscription to get access to your own personal library of minis. Go to monsters.rent to find out more. That's the website. Monsters, with an S, .rent. Get your library pass to a world of minis today.
we also wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Stardust and Dragons. I'm going to let one of the cast of Stardust and Dragons, Christian Hatcher, and his crew tell you a little bit more about it.
This August, a new adventure podcast is coming to a platform near you, filled with action.
You one of the two of them. We can't keep taking hits like that.
Drama.
Everything that she's been doing, everything she's going to do, finally sets in.
and Stardust.
Help! Help! Someone, please!
Find out more about this epic odyssey at stardustanddragons.com, where adventure awaits in the stars.
That's all the announcements we have today. Again, thank you so much for everything you do for us. You make this show possible. Like we said before, we'll be back next week with another great episode, and until then, let's go ahead and roll initiative.